There are a lot of gamers out there who have certain games that they believe is the greatest game of all time. I can think of some very common examples of games that people think are the greatest of all time. Final Fantasy VII, Lunar Silver Star Story, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Metal Gear Solid, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, and the list goes on. One such game, or should I say one such series that we're going to talk about today, is the Chrono series. Chrono Trigger is considered the best RPG on the Super Nintendo and one of, if not the best RPG that's ever been made. What many gamers don't realize, though, is that Squaresoft created a sequel to Chrono Trigger that released on the PlayStation. So, my newest retro review is on the PlayStation 1 Classic, Chrono Cross. The story of Chrono Cross takes place about 20 years after the end of Chrono Trigger. A young boy named Serge is growing up on an island, and after a typical day of lizard hunting, he is pulled through a dimensional rift and into an alternate reality. In this alternate reality, he is actually dead and has been dead for about 10 years. He travels with a young thief named Kid in the hopes of returning to his original world and finding out why he was transported to the alternate reality in the first place. The story of Chrono Cross is not as epic, I could say, as Chrono Trigger. It is a good story in its own right, but it's a little confusing, especially with the endless debate of some people not accepting the fact that this is actually a sequel to Chrono Trigger. Like many other RPGs of the PlayStation 1 era, Chrono Cross is a turn-based console-style RPG. As you play through the game, you'll be going across an overworld map, exploring dungeons and towns, as well as participating in turn-based battles against enemies and boss fights. Now, there are a few things that make Chrono Cross unique. If you recall, Chrono Trigger had a unique gameplay mechanic that let you travel back and forth through time, so you could see the same world as it progressed across various time periods. Chrono Cross has something similar to this with the story element with the different realities. At a point in the story, you gain the ability to go back and forth between your reality and the alternate reality at will, and you can see a lot of things that are different in each reality. For example, if you have a story mission where you have to get divine protection from a dragon that is not available in the alternate reality, you can go back to your own reality and find that the dragon is there and fine. This adds a little bit of puzzle solving to the mix, making you think, okay, where do I need to go, and what reality do I need to go into to be able to find this? Now, the two unique aspects to Chrono Cross are the fact that there are 45 recruitable, playable characters that you can recruit as you play through the game, and the element system that the combat uses. As far as party members are concerned, there are 45 different party members, and many of them require some specific tasks to be able to recruit them. The element system is very similar to the materia system from Final Fantasy VII. You will find elements throughout the game, which are both elemental attacks and skills, as well as items like potions. Elements can be equipped to any character, and they have various levels that you have to equip them to. Let's say you have a healing spell that is a level 3 healing spell. You can put it in one of your character slots on levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on and so forth. But if you put this level 3 healing spell on your level 1 slot, then it's going to be a lot weaker when you cast it than it would if you put it on your regular slot. And of course, if you put it on your number 5 slot, it's going to be a lot stronger. This links right into the combat of the game. Whenever someone has their turn, they have so many moves before their turn is over. Let's say you have a turn and you have 6 moves total, so you can attack an opponent up to 6 times with physical attacks, or you can do as many as 5 attacks and leave your last turn for an element. The number of times you've hit the enemy determines what kind of elements you can use. If you attack an enemy 5 times and only hit them 3 times, you will be at a level 3, and you can only use elements from levels 1, 2, and 3. So it's important to note that, because that'll determine what kind of elements you will have access to during that turn. An important thing to note about the game is the difficulty. Chrono Cross is a very difficult game, but it's not an impossible to beat game. I never had to stop and level grind, even though the game doesn't have a proper leveling system. Instead, your stats just increase after so many levels instead of saying you leveled up and then giving you the stat increases. But there are a lot of bosses that are going to give you a lot of trouble, The last thing about gameplay to mention is the length. A normal playthrough the story mode should take you about 35 to 40 hours, depending on how quickly you can progress through the game. Even with someone like me who has played through the game half a dozen times, it'll still take me at least 35 to 40 hours, if not more, to get through the story. At least to enjoy the story instead of speed running through the game. As far as presentation is concerned, it's a little bit tricky here. Back in its day, Chrono Cross was highly praised. I believe the GameSpot website even went as far as giving it a 10 out of 10, a perfect score. However, in today's gaming world, with our new standards today, this is not going to be a 10 out of 10. And I'm about to tell you why. First off, the visual presentation is really nice. Chrono Cross is one of the best looking PS1 games out there to download on the PlayStation Network. I would say that it probably rivals the visuals of games like Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX. The rest of the presentation is what I have problems with. The first problem is the frame rate. When you're going into battles, or even running through some towns and dungeons, you will have a lot of frame rate problems being thrown at you. This is especially apparent in battles. I have yet to go through a single battle where I didn't have huge frame drops whenever I tried to go through an attack combo. A lot of people in the Vita community complain about frame drops in games like Borderlands 2 and Resident Evil Revelations 2, but those aren't anywhere near as bad as these are, and these are a lot more constant. The other problems I found are in the audio and in the save and loading screens. First of all, the audio will randomly cut out every once in a while. This happened probably 3, 4, 5 times as I went through the game this last time, but I would be running through a dungeon or in the middle of a battle and all of the audio would suddenly just cut off. No sound effects, no music, no nothing for 5, 10, 15 seconds, and then it would suddenly come back on. At first I thought it was just an audio glitch, but the more I played, the more I heard it happen, and I realized that it wasn't just coincidence. The save screen has the other issues. Whenever I go to save my game or load my game, the game will randomly completely disable the X button's functionality. Then I have to hit the home button to suspend the software and go back in, and it works just fine. This happens almost every single time I go in and try to save my game or load my game. The other issue here is the D-pad. Whenever you go to load a game and you have more than, say, 3 or 4 save datas, if you hit the D-pad, 9 times out of 10, it will be oversensitive and it'll actually skip 2 sections in the menu instead of just 1. Chrono Cross is a sequel to what many people call the greatest RPG of all time, and some people think Chrono Cross is the superior title and is the greatest RPG of all time. While the RPG does prove to be a very fun and worthy adventure for any Vita fan or gamer in general, there are a lot of technical problems in the game that just aren't acceptable in today's gaming world. It's still a great game, and the frame drops don't really affect the nature of the gameplay to make it unplayable, but it's worth noting that there are a lot of technical problems built into the game. PlayStation Vita Reviews rates Chrono Cross a 6 out of 10. If you'd like to comment on this further, feel free to below or go to my site at vitareviews.net to comment, join the forum, look at PlayStation TV Compatibility, or donate to my cause.